There is a moment in every human life, a moment subtle enough to miss, yet powerful enough to rewrite destiny, when you finally understand that everything you cling to is the very thing blocking what you were meant to receive. A moment when the weight of your own resistance becomes heavier than the fear of releasing it. A moment when your spirit whispers a simple truth you've spent years refusing to hear. You are holding too tightly, and the life you want cannot breathe in your grip. We've been conditioned to grasp, to cling, to chase, to force, to control. We were raised in systems that worship tension, glorify struggle, romanticize suffering, and shame surrender. We were taught that letting go is failure, that softening is weakness, that trusting life is delusional. We were told that you must demand what you want, fight for what you desire, tighten your hold on anything that threatens to leave. But here is the truth Jung hinted at, the truth mystics screamed into history, the truth modern society refuses to teach you. The tighter you hold, the more life slips through your fingers, because force comes from fear, and fear is the loudest enemy of destiny. You cling to people because you fear abandonment. You cling to timelines because you fear falling behind. You cling to identities because you fear the unknown. You cling to outcomes because you fear losing control. You cling to the past because you fear the emptiness of the present. You cling to illusions because you fear the brilliance of truth. You become a prisoner of your own grip, and then you wonder why nothing flows, why nothing aligns, why life feels more like conflict than creation. You cannot receive with closed hands. You cannot grow with closed mind. You cannot evolve with closed heart. You cannot be transformed while clinging to the very things you were meant to outgrow. Letting go is not losing. Letting go is opening. Letting go is remembering that life cannot place anything into hands that refuse to release what was never meant to stay. When you let go, something ancient happens within you, something primal, something liberating, something sacred, as if the soul removes a weight you didn't know was suffocating it. Letting go is not a passive surrender. It is an act of inner rebellion, a psychological revolution, a declaration that says, I will no longer imprison my life with my own fear. The ego fights this truth. The ego hates surrender. The ego is the architect of your grip, obsessed with control, obsessed with certainty, obsessed with forcing the world to obey its small, terrified vision. But the self, the deeper you, the wiser you, the Jungian you, does not operate through force. The self operates through flow, alignment, intuition, resonance, and trust. And this self knows something your ego never learned. Life gives the most to the ones who release the most. History is full of examples. Nietzsche releasing the world's approval to write what no one was ready to hear. Buddha releasing identity to discover enlightenment. Mystics releasing material life to access inner kingdoms. Heroes releasing safety to step into greatness. And yet here you are, gripping what is breaking you, holding on to what is draining you, clinging to what has already ended, calling it loyalty, calling it strength, calling it love. But love does not suffocate. Strength does not shrink. Loyalty does not destroy you. You hold on because you're afraid of the emptiness. But emptiness is not the enemy. Emptiness is where life can finally enter. You fear releasing the wrong person, but letting go reveals the right one. You fear releasing the wrong timeline, but letting go reveals divine timing. You fear releasing the wrong path, but letting go reveals the path you were born to walk. The more you let go, the more life returns what is actually yours. And it returns it not as chaos, but as clarity, not as coincidence, but as alignment, not as luck, but as destiny. Letting go is the psychological death that precedes rebirth. It is the burning away of false identity. It is the dissolving of outdated versions of you. It is the removal of anchors that once felt like safety, but were secretly chains. When you let go, you do not lose yourself. You meet yourself. You meet the self behind the noise. You meet the truth beneath the fear. You meet the wisdom beneath the wounds. You meet the intuition that was always trying to speak. You meet the purpose waiting beneath the panic. You meet the version of yourself you always suspected existed, but never had the courage to become. Because letting go is courage. Letting go is strength. Letting go is evolution in motion. Jung taught that the psyche naturally moves toward wholeness when we stop interfering with its direction. Letting go is ending your interference. You interfere when you cling. You interfere when you force. You interfere when you choose attachment over awareness. You interfere when you choose familiarity over truth. You interfere when you choose fear over destiny. The more you let go, the more the unconscious becomes your ally instead of your enemy. Synchronicities begin to multiply. Right people begin to appear without effort. Wrong people begin to fall away without conflict. Opportunities begin to align without struggle. Life begins to flow where it once resisted. Not because you became lucky, but because you became open. Life cannot enter a clenched heart. Blessings cannot find you while you're hiding inside fear. Alignment cannot land when you are gripping the wrong things. When you let go of the need to control, life reveals the things you were always meant to hold. And the first thing it reveals is you, the real you, the unmasked you, the empowered you, the conscious you, the you who no longer needs to beg life because you have learned how to receive it. When you let go, the world inside you shifts first. It doesn't start with external change. It starts with an internal earthquake, a quiet collapse of everything false, everything forced, everything fragile, everything that held you small. Letting go is not a single choice. It is a dismantling of illusions you once mistook for identity, a dismantling of beliefs you inherited instead of chose, a dismantling of attachments that were prisons dressed as comfort, a dismantling of fears that felt like truth because you carried them for so long. And as the inner structure breaks apart, the real structure begins to rise from beneath the ruins. For the first time, you see that what you thought was foundation was actually confinement. What you called security was only habit. What you called loyalty was self-abandonment. What you called love was attachment mixed with fear. And that realization shatters you, but it also frees you. The moment you release what is not you, you create space for the self to emerge. Not the ego self shaped by your past, but the true self shaped by your becoming. Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming whole, becoming conscious, becoming sovereign over your own psyche. And individuation requires letting go again and again and again, letting go of the old self so the new one can breathe, letting go of the old life so the next one can begin, letting go of the old story so a new narrative can write itself through you. This is why life keeps taking things from you until you stop gripping them. This is why seasons close, when you refuse to end them. This is why doors lock, when you try to force them open. This is why relationships collapse, when you pretend they still match who you are. Life is not cruel. Life is corrective. Life removes what blocks your alignment. You call it loss. Life calls it correction. Life ends what limits your evolution. You call it rejection. Life calls it redirection. Life dissolves what must die for your destiny to rise. You call it betrayal. Life calls it truth. Everything you let go of was never meant to survive the person you were becoming. And once you let go, you no longer feel betrayed by endings. You feel liberated by them. You no longer fear the unknown. You feel called into it. You no longer grasp at fading connections. You let them walk away with grace. You no longer shrink to fit spaces that suffocate you. You expand beyond their edges. You no longer chase love. You become love. You begin to understand that letting go is not the loss of control. It is the return of control back to the only place it ever belonged, within you. And in that return, your energy changes. You stop vibrating like desperation. You start vibrating like someone who trusts life. You stop demanding. You start aligning. You stop gripping. You start receiving. You stop panicking. You start perceiving. People feel the difference. Your presence feels different. Your silence feels different. Your words feel different. Your boundaries feel different. Your decisions feel different. You begin to move as someone who is no longer afraid of losing anything, because you're no longer willing to keep the things that cost you yourself. This is when life begins to give you more than you ever asked for. Not because of luck, not because of timing, not because of fate, but because letting go places you in harmony with how the universe actually operates. Letting go aligns your frequency with truth, with expansion, with readiness, with a part of you that no longer needs validation to feel deserving. And the universe always responds to readiness, not to wanting, not to hoping, not to forcing, not to waiting, to readiness. The more you let go, the faster life moves, the lighter your spirit becomes, the louder your intuition grows, the more the world rearranges itself to match your new level of truth. Letting go opens the gates. Letting go unlocks the path. Letting go returns power to the place it always belonged. Letting go transforms you into a vessel the universe can finally pour into. And that is why the more you let go, the more life gives you. Life gives you clarity because you're no longer blinded by fear. Life gives you peace because you're no longer wrestling with what you cannot change. Life gives you alignment because you're no longer forcing misalignment to continue. Life gives you transformation because you finally stopped fighting the process. Life gives you people who recognize your soul because you stopped clinging to those who only recognized your wounds. Life gives you opportunities that match your highest potential because you stopped entertaining what matched your lowest self-worth. Life gives you love that does not require shrinking, performing, or betraying yourself. Life gives you openings you never imagined because your energy is no longer barricaded behind resistance. Life gives you freedom because you stopped imprisoning yourself inside the walls of fear. And life gives you yourself, the version you were always meant to meet. The more you let go, the more you become. The more you release, the more you rise. The more you surrender, the more you receive. Because destiny cannot reach the person you pretend to be. It can only reach the person you become when you let go. There comes a point, a turning point in the life of every awakening soul, when letting go is no longer something you have to force yourself to do. It becomes something your spirit does instinctively. Because when you finally experience the freedom that letting go gives you, you stop fearing release and start fearing anything that requires you to hold on too tightly. Clinging begins to feel unnatural. Begging begins to feel insulting. Forcing begins to feel painful. Overthinking begins to feel dishonoring. Desperation begins to feel poisonous. And something in you, something ancient, something wise, refuses to go back. You begin to sense, perhaps for the first time in your life, how heavy you've been, how tense you've been, how exhausted your soul has been, from gripping life with hands that were never allowed to rest. Letting go doesn't just lighten your load. It restores your identity. The identity beneath the fear, beneath the people-pleasing, beneath the survival conditioning, beneath the childhood wounds, beneath the trauma you learn to normalize. Letting go reveals the self behind the mask. This is why the process feels like death, because something is dying, not you, but the false version of you that you believed you needed to be in order to be loved, accepted, safe, or seen. That version crumbles. Its armor falls away. Its scripts fall silent. Its patterns dissolve. Its illusions evaporate. Its attachments loosen. Its grip on your destiny breaks. What rises in its place is not a weaker you, but a truer you. Because letting go is not abandonment. Letting go is rebirth. Letting go is the return to your natural state, the state society conditioned you to forget, a state where you trust yourself more than you trust the outer world, a state where you trust timing more than you trust control, a state where you trust resonance more than you trust rules, a state where you trust intuition more than you trust logic, a state where you trust your path more than you trust your fears. This is when you begin to feel something incredible, something powerful, something almost divine. Life is suddenly not heavy anymore, not because it becomes easier, but because you are no longer dragging everything with you. You no longer drag old relationships that stopped growing years ago. You no longer drag outdated identities that shrink your spirit. You no longer drag emotional weight that wasn't yours to carry. You no longer drag timelines that were never aligned with your evolution. You no longer drag past versions of yourself that cannot survive the expansion ahead. Freedom begins with release. Abundance begins with surrender. Transformation begins with trust. Alignment begins with letting go. You start to notice that as you let go, you gain something far more valuable than whatever you thought you were losing. You gain your energy back, you gain your peace back, your focus back, your clarity back, your intuition back, your boundaries back, your power back, your self-respect back, your direction back, your fire back. Letting go is the return of everything life wanted to give you, but couldn't reach you, while your hands were full of fear. And as your energy becomes clearer, life becomes clearer. You begin to recognize what is for you and what is against you. You begin to see what expands you and what drains you. You begin to feel what aligns with your future and what belongs to your past. You begin to sense the difference between a door meant to close and a door you were forcing open. A connection meant for your soul and a connection meant for your wounds part. A path that elevates you and a path that diminishes you. A lesson that is over and a pattern you kept repeating. Letting go gives you eyes you didn't have before. Eyes that can see truth instead of illusion. Eyes that can see potential instead of fear. Eyes that can see alignment instead of attachment. You stop choosing out of need and start choosing out of clarity. You stop begging the world for direction and start listening to your inner compass. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop forcing and start flowing. You stop gripping and start receiving. You stop shrinking and start becoming. You begin to realize that everything you let go of was only making room for everything you were trying to manifest. You were not losing anything. You were clearing space. Space for abundance. Space for purpose. Space for truth. Space for alignment. Space for love. Space for the life that was always meant to meet you, once you were light enough to rise to its level. Because the truth is this, and you will feel this truth with every cell of your existence. The more you let go, the more life can finally reach you. Life cannot give to the version of you that operates from fear. Life gives to the version of you that operates from trust. Life cannot pour into a vessel clogged with the debris of old stories. Life pours into a vessel emptied of everything that was killing its spirit. Life cannot elevate what clings to the ground. Life elevates what learns to release. And the moment you master the art of letting go, you become impossible to block. You become impossible to manipulate, impossible to break, impossible to diminish, impossible to derail. Because the person who has learned to let go has learned the secret of all strength. Nothing can be taken from you when you are willing to release everything that is not aligned with who you are becoming. You are no longer fighting life. You are partnering with it. You are no longer gripping the past. You are aligning with destiny. You are no longer controlled by fear. You are guided by intuition. You are no longer held down by what you cling to. You are lifted by what you release. And the more you let go, the more life gives you, not as reward, but as resonance, not as coincidence, but as consequence, not as miracle, but as inevitability. But there is a deeper truth, one that sits beneath the surface of every transformation, every awakening, every moment you release what no longer aligns with your soul. Letting go is not just an act. Letting go is an identity shift. It is the moment you stop living as the version of yourself that was shaped by fear, wounded by your past, programmed by your environment, and controlled by your unconscious conditioning. You become someone else, someone freer, someone lighter, someone harder to break, someone clearer, sharper, grounded, awakened. Letting go transforms you from the inside out because it forces you to confront the question most people avoid for their entire lives. Who are you when you are no longer holding on? Who are you when you no longer cling to the person who hurt you? Who are you when you no longer chase the validation that once defined you? Who are you when you no longer grip the timeline that once imprisoned you? Who are you when you no longer force what resists you? Who are you when you no longer carry the pain that became your identity? Most people never find out because most people never let go. They hold on because holding on feels safe. They grip because gripping feels familiar. They cling because they fear the void. But here is the secret the awakened eventually discover. The void is not empty. The void is where your real life begins. The void is where intuition speaks. The void is where strength forms. The void is where clarity emerges. The void is where your future waits patiently for you to stop clinging to your past. Letting go is stepping into that void with trust instead of terror. It is saying to life, I no longer fear what I cannot control. I choose to evolve. And when you do this, everything becomes easier. Not because life stops challenging you, but because you are no longer fighting the natural movements of your destiny. You are no longer swimming against the current. You are no longer resisting the unfolding. You are no longer demanding that life look a certain way. You begin to experience a strange sensation, the feeling of being carried, not carried as in rescued, but carried as in supported by forces greater than your fear. You feel the subtle pull of intuition guiding you. You feel the soft alignment of opportunities unfolding. You feel the invisible orchestration of timing working in your favor. You feel the releasing of tension that once kept you trapped. You feel the easing of anxiety that once dictated your decisions. And you begin to understand life was never the enemy. Your resistance was. Resistance creates scarcity. Surrender creates flow. Resistance creates fear. Surrender creates clarity. Resistance creates stagnation. Surrender creates momentum. Resistance creates insecurity. Surrender creates self-trust. And when surrender becomes your default state, everything around you changes. People treat you with more respect because you respect your own boundaries. Relationships become more honest because you no longer cling to the ones built on fear. Opportunities become more aligned because you no longer chase the ones that dilute your power. Timing becomes more precise because you no longer try to outrun your own readiness. Your entire life reorganizes itself around your new frequency of release. And then something miraculous happens, something almost supernatural. You begin attracting without effort, not forcing, not chasing, not proving, not negotiating, not manipulating, not begging, attracting. You attract people who match your growth. You attract opportunities that match your potential. You attract relationships that match your healed heart. You attract abundance that matches your self-worth. You attract clarity that matches your consciousness. You attract respect that matches your standards. Because everything you let go of was making room for everything meant to find you. Letting go does not empty your life. Letting go refills your life. It refills it with truth, with alignment, with resonance, with purpose, with conscious connection, with inner strength, with divine timing, with the path that was always yours, but could not reach you while you were gripping the wrong direction. And here is the most powerful revelation of all. You do not receive more by doing more. You receive more by holding less, holding fewer grudges, fewer expectations, fewer forced relationships, fewer false identities, fewer limiting beliefs, fewer fears disguised as logic, fewer attachments disguised as loyalty, fewer illusions disguised as dreams. Because when your hands are finally empty, life fills them with precision. Letting go is not the loss of control. It is the recognition that the control you were clinging to was an illusion. Letting go is not the end of your story. It is the first time you stop interrupting the story that was meant to unfold through you. And the deeper you walk into this truth, the more you feel the shift. You no longer fear endings, you honor them. You no longer cling to timelines, you trust them. You no longer chase people, you magnetize them. You no longer panic over outcomes, you align with them. You no longer demand certainty, you embody it. You no longer grip life, you dance with it. You stop trying to force what hurts you and make space for what heals you. You stop trying to control what collapses and make space for what rises. You stop trying to resurrect what is dead and make space for what is alive. You stop trying to be who you were and make space for who you are becoming. Because the truth is simple, ancient, universal, inescapable. The more you let go, the more life gives you. Not because life changes, but because you finally do. And now you stand here, different, quieter, deeper, more awake than you have ever been. Not because life suddenly became easier, but because you finally became lighter. You didn't rise because you forced. You rose because you released. You didn't become powerful because you held on. You became powerful because you learned to let go. You let go of who hurt you. You let go of who left you. You let go of who you used to be. You let go of who you were told to be. You let go of the timelines that suffocated you. You let go of the identities that caged you. You let go of the dreams that weren't yours. You let go of the expectations that distorted you. You let go of the love that didn't love you back. You let go of the comfort that was killing you slowly. And in all that letting go, you returned to something you didn't even realize you had lost. Yourself, your real self, not the fearful self, not the wounded self, not the fragmented self, not the obedient self the world rewarded, but the sovereign self that only reveals itself after everything false has fallen away. This is why letting go feels like death, because it is a death of illusions, a death of attachments, a death of old versions, a death of unconscious patterns, a death of the ego's desperate grip on what was never meant to stay. But after every death comes a resurrection, and you have resurrected into someone who no longer fears losing what was never aligned with you to begin with. For the first time, you understand that letting go was never about sacrifice. It was about making space for truth, making space for alignment, making space for purpose, making space for destiny, making space for the life you were meant to live. Because life does not withhold from those who trust it. Life withholds from those who cling in fear. Life does not abandon those who surrender. Life abandons those who abandon themselves. Life does not punish those who release. Life punishes those who grip what hurts them. And now that you've released the old, life begins to give in ways it never could before. Life gives clarity where confusion once lived. Life gives abundance where scarcity once ruled. Life gives stability where chaos once reigned. Life gives love where longing once ached. Life gives opportunity where stagnation once held you hostage. Life gives alignment where misalignment once strained you. Life gives you everything you were never able to receive because your hands were full of fear. Letting go is the ultimate declaration of readiness. Ready to evolve, ready to expand, ready to rise, ready to be guided, ready to attract instead of chase, ready to receive instead of force, ready to live rather than merely survive, ready to be who you truly are. And the universe responds to readiness, like a tuning fork responds to its matching frequency. The more you let go, the more your life synchronizes around your highest self. The more you let go, the more divine timing becomes undeniable. The more you let go, the more you feel carried by something you once tried to control. The more you let go, the more you move through life with the calm confidence of someone who understands that nothing meant for them will ever need to be gripped in fear. Letting go is not the end of your power. It is the beginning of it. It is the shift from force to flow, from ego to essence, from scarcity to abundance, from control to trust, from survival to sovereignty. And now you walk forward with your spirit unburdened, your heart unarmored, your energy unblocked, your intuition uncluttered, your path unobstructed. You walk forward with a quiet certainty of someone who finally understands the law that governs every evolution. Life rises to meet the ones who rise beyond fear. And you, through your surrender, through your trust, through your release, have risen. You have become the person who no longer begs the universe for scraps, but stands open-handed before the abundance of existence itself. You have become the person who no longer asks, why is nothing coming to me? You have become the person who finally understands it wasn't supposed to come until you let go. And the more you let go, the more life gives you, not as a gift, but as a reflection of the liberated soul you have finally become. And so you arrive at the threshold of a new life, not because the world changed, but because you finally became someone the world can no longer limit. You look back at everything you released, everything you outgrew, everything you surrendered, and you realize something almost heartbreaking in its truth. You were never losing anything. You were only losing the parts of yourself that were too small for the person you were destined to become. Every ending was a beginning disguised as loss. Every release was an initiation disguised as pain. Every surrender was a door disguised as a collapse. And now, as you stand fully in your own becoming, you no longer fear the unknown because you are no longer unknown to yourself. The war inside you has ended. The resistance has quieted. The confusion has lifted. The illusions have crumbled. The grip has loosened. The weight has fallen away. The fear has dissolved back into nothingness. You have returned to yourself. And that return is your greatest victory. For the first time in your life, you truly understand the paradox that terrified you for so long. Letting go never took anything from you. It only revealed what was meant for you. Life was not waiting for you to hold tighter. Life was waiting for you to trust yourself enough to release everything that hurt to hold. Because the truth, the final truth is this: you cannot receive the life you want while gripping the life you're afraid to outgrow. And now that you've released the old, the new begins to move toward you with a grace, a timing, a precision that feels less like coincidence and more like destiny responding to your evolution. You begin to walk differently, not with urgency, but with certainty, not with tension, but with alignment, not with fear, but with inner authority. You move like someone who understands that nothing truly aligned will ever require your suffering. Nothing meant for you will demand that you betray yourself. Nothing destined for you will slip away when your hands are open. The more you let go, the more life meets you in the open space, where your fear once lived. The more you let go, the more you rise above the noise that once controlled your choices. The more you let go, the more your path reveals itself with every step you dare to take. And the more you let go, the more you feel the quiet, unshakable truth that lives beneath every awakening. You were never meant to grip life. You were meant to grow into it. And now you have. You have become someone who no longer collapses under endings because you finally understand that endings are invitations. You have become someone who no longer trembles in uncertainty because you finally trust yourself in the unknown. You have become someone who no longer begs for clarity because you finally carry clarity within you. You have become someone who no longer shrinks into the past because you finally belong to your future. And so you walk forward, not as the person who clung in fear, but as the person who rises in truth. You walk forward lighter, clearer, stronger, quieter, wiser, more aligned, more awake, more alive than you have ever been. And with every breath, every step, every choice born from your new consciousness, you echo the law that has shaped every transformation in history. The more you let go, the more life gives you. Not because life changes, but because you finally became someone who can receive